Your soulmate saying, "Please read this before you fall asleep. I can't lose you twice. My beloved child, stop for a single heartbeat, because what is about to unfold is not an ordinary message. It arrives in the quiet space between yesterday's unfinished thoughts and tomorrow's unanswered questions. Before this night slips away, there is something that has been waiting for your attention. Not to frighten you. Not to rush you. But to awaken a part of you that has been listening without realizing it. If you leave too soon, the next pieces may never fit together the way they were meant to. Stay here for a little longer, because every word from this moment forward carries a thread connected to the title you came searching for. Imagine that somewhere, beyond the noise of ordinary conversations, someone pauses before closing their eyes. Their heart isn't searching for perfect words anymore. It is searching for one final chance to be understood. If they could place a single letter into your hands tonight, it would begin with these silent emotions. Please read this before you fall asleep. I can't lose you twice. But what does losing someone twice truly mean? The first loss is obvious. Distance. Silence. Missed timing. A conversation that never happened. A feeling hidden behind fear. Those moments leave visible footprints. Yet the second loss is far more mysterious. It happens when two people are still connected by invisible threads, yet slowly stop believing those threads exist. That is the loss no one notices until it feels almost impossible to reverse. What if the message you are hearing tonight is not asking you to chase anyone? What if it is asking you to recognize something you have overlooked inside yourself? Stay with this thought. Because the next revelation changes everything. Some people believe destiny arrives like thunder. Suddenly. Loudly. Impossible to ignore. But the deepest turning points rarely announce themselves that way. They arrive quietly. A feeling that refuses to disappear. A name returning to your mind without invitation. A strange calm replacing old confusion. Tiny moments that appear ordinary until you connect them together. That is exactly why this message feels different. Someone has reached the point where pretending no longer feels easier than telling the truth. They have carried questions through countless ordinary days, wondering whether speaking now would matter or whether the opportunity had already slipped away. Every delay became heavier than the last. Every silence echoed longer than expected. Yet tonight something shifts. Not because circumstances magically transformed. Because awareness finally did. Have you ever noticed how one realization can rewrite months of misunderstanding? How one honest sentence can illuminate memories that once seemed confusing. The future often begins with a single moment of clarity rather than a dramatic event. Perhaps that is why you felt drawn here. Not by coincidence. By recognition. There is another layer hidden beneath these words. Listen carefully. The message isn't saying, "Don't move forward." It is saying, "Don't move forward carrying old assumptions." Those are completely different paths. Many people unknowingly build tomorrow using yesterday's fears as blueprints. They expect familiar disappointments. They prepare for conversations that never happen. They answer questions no one has asked. Slowly, possibility becomes smaller, not because destiny changed, but because expectation quietly narrowed it. Tonight invites you to do something rare. Pause before creating another conclusion. Leave one door open. Not for uncertainty. For understanding. Because someone, somewhere, has finally reached the courage they once believed they would never find. Their greatest struggle was never finding the right words. It was believing those words would still matter after everything that happened. And maybe, just maybe, they mattered all along. Before this chapter closes, notice how your own thoughts have shifted since the beginning of this message. The questions inside your mind are no longer the same ones you carried a few minutes ago. That change is important. It is the first sign that something deeper has already begun moving beneath the surface. Don't rush away just yet. The next chapter uncovers what was hidden behind those silent words, why this message appeared tonight instead of any other night, and what, "I can't lose you twice," truly reveals once every missing piece finally comes into focus. A strange detail appears now. And once you notice it, you may never look at this story the same way again. The message was never meant to arrive during the busiest hour of the day. It waited for the quiet. It waited until the world slowed down, when distractions faded and only honest thoughts remained. That timing is not accidental. Some truths can only be heard when the noise finally steps aside. So remain here a little longer, because the next layer has been hidden in plain sight. Think about the words once more. Please read this before you fall asleep. I can't lose you twice. Why before sleep? Because night has a way of removing the masks people wear throughout the day. During daylight, responsibilities speak louder than emotions. Pride feels stronger than vulnerability. Doubt easily wins. But when the lights fade and everything becomes still, the heart begins asking questions the mind has spent hours avoiding. That is where this message was born. Not from panic. Not from regret alone. From clarity. Somewhere, someone finally realized that silence has a cost. Not the dramatic kind that stories often describe, but the quiet cost of wondering what could have happened if one honest moment had arrived sooner. They understood that waiting forever never creates certainty, it only creates distance. Now imagine them looking back over every conversation they replayed in their thoughts. Every smile they misunderstood. Every pause they interpreted the wrong way. Every chance they convinced themselves would come again someday. Then one realization stopped them completely. What if tomorrow isn't asking us to repeat yesterday? That single thought changes everything. Perhaps the future isn't waiting for perfect timing. Perhaps it is waiting for a different perspective. Have you noticed how life sometimes places two people on separate roads, only for both journeys to teach the exact lesson they couldn't have learned together? Distance does not always mean endings. Sometimes it creates the understanding that closeness alone never could. That is why this message feels unusually calm. There are no impossible promises. No exaggerated certainty. Only an invitation to see with clearer eyes. Maybe you have been searching for signs outside yourself while the strongest one has quietly been growing within. Every experience has shaped the way you listen, the way you trust, the way you recognize what truly deserves your attention. The person connected to this message may have changed as well. Growth often happens where no one is watching. And that is the hidden turning point. People imagine transformation as something visible. Yet the deepest transformations happen silently. A heart becomes more patient. A mind becomes less fearful. A spirit becomes ready for conversations it once avoided. Those changes cannot always be seen immediately. But they can certainly be felt. So before this story continues, ask yourself one gentle question. If someone approached you today with complete honesty instead of perfect words, would you recognize the difference? Hold that question close. Because the next chapter will reveal why this message chose this night, and why every unanswered moment may have been preparing both paths for a meeting neither side could have predicted. And if this journey has quietly spoken to something within you, let your presence be known. A thoughtful comment about what resonated most, sharing this story with someone who may need encouragement, or subscribing to continue this unfolding path helps these conversations reach hearts that are searching for the same quiet clarity. The story is only beginning, and the next chapter carries the piece that has remained hidden until now. Before another thought pulls your attention away, stay with this moment. There is one final piece that has been quietly waiting behind everything you've heard so far. It does not arrive with noise or certainty. It arrives with a realization so subtle that many people overlook it until their entire perspective changes. This is where the hidden meaning behind those words begins to reveal itself. I can't lose you twice. At first, those words sound like a confession directed toward another person. But listen more closely. What if they are also a confession directed toward time itself? Because time has a curious way of testing what truly matters. It separates people, not always to erase their connection, but to reveal whether that connection was built on emotion alone, or on something deeper that could survive distance, silence, and unanswered questions. Some bonds disappear when circumstances change. Others become stronger because of what they endure. The difference is rarely visible in the beginning. It only becomes clear when both people have grown into versions of themselves they could never have imagined before. That is why this message arrived tonight. Not because everything has already been decided. Because something important is still unfolding. Imagine someone standing at the edge of a new chapter, holding memories that once felt too heavy to carry. For a long time they believed those memories were chains. Then, almost without warning, they discovered they had become stepping stones instead. Every misunderstanding taught them how to communicate with greater honesty. Every disappointment taught them what truly deserves their energy. Every unanswered question quietly shaped the wisdom they now carry. And suddenly, the past no longer controls the future. It prepares it. This is the turning point many never recognize. People often search for extraordinary signs while overlooking ordinary transformations. A calmer reaction. A clearer decision. The courage to release assumptions before they become walls. These small shifts may seem insignificant, yet they are often the beginning of life's greatest changes. So ask yourself something. If tomorrow offered you a conversation free from old expectations, would you walk into it as the same person you were yesterday? Or has something inside you already changed? Pause before answering. Because your response matters more than you realize. Somewhere beyond what you can currently see, another journey may be unfolding at the same time. Not racing toward an ending, but slowly aligning with a moment neither path could have reached any sooner. Sometimes life is less about waiting for perfect circumstances and more about becoming ready to recognize them when they finally appear. That may be the quiet truth hidden inside this entire message. "I can't lose you twice" is not simply a plea to hold on. It is a promise to stop letting fear speak louder than understanding. It is a decision to value honesty over hesitation. It is the moment someone realizes that genuine connection is never strengthened by pretending to feel less than they truly do. Now the story stands at a doorway. One chapter has ended. Another is ready to begin. But the next step is unlike anything you've imagined so far. What is about to be revealed is not about the past anymore. It is about the unexpected event that changes the direction of everything you've heard until now. Stay with this journey, because the next chapter uncovers the message that was never meant to remain hidden forever. Something unexpected is about to come into focus, not because the story is ending, but because every clue has quietly been leading here. If you've stayed until this moment, you've already noticed that nothing in this journey has been about coincidence. Every pause, every question, every hidden thought has been preparing you for one simple realization: the message was never asking you to chase the future. It was inviting you to become ready for it. Picture the final page of a letter that was never sent. There are no dramatic declarations. No impossible promises. Only a quiet sentence written with complete honesty. If these words ever reach you, I hope they find you stronger than when I first wanted to say them. That is the heartbeat behind everything you've heard tonight. The person connected to this message has discovered something remarkable. They no longer measure connection by how often two people cross paths. They measure it by how deeply two lives continue to inspire growth, even through seasons of silence. That realization changes every memory. What once looked like distance now begins to resemble preparation. Perhaps you were never meant to become the same person who started this journey. Perhaps neither of you were. Think about that for a moment. What if every unanswered question had a purpose beyond frustration? What if every delay quietly gave both hearts time to become wiser, calmer, and more aware of what truly matters? Life has an unusual rhythm. It rarely reveals the entire picture at once. Instead, it hands us one meaningful piece after another, trusting that understanding will arrive only when we are patient enough to see how they fit together. And now, here you are. Still listening. Still searching. Still open to possibility. That alone says something important about your journey. Maybe the greatest message hidden inside the title was never the fear of being lost twice. Maybe it was the courage to value what is genuine before another opportunity slips quietly into yesterday. Carry that thought with you tonight. Let it become the last conversation your heart has before sleep replaces the noise of the day. Release the conclusions that no longer serve you. Make room for fresh understanding. Sometimes tomorrow begins with nothing more than a different way of seeing today. As this chapter closes, remember this. The strongest connections are not built by rushing toward certainty. They are built through patience, honesty, kindness, and the willingness to keep growing, even when the full picture has not yet appeared. If this story gave you a new perspective, I'd love to know which line stayed with you the longest. Sharing your thoughts in the comments, passing this message along to someone who may need a little hope tonight, and subscribing if you'd like to continue these cinematic journeys together helps this community grow naturally. Now rest peacefully. Leave tonight with curiosity instead of doubt. Because sometimes the most meaningful chapter is not the one that ends with all the answers. It is the one that gives you the confidence to welcome whatever tomorrow is quietly bringing your way. Just when it seems every mystery has been uncovered, another quiet truth steps forward. It has been standing in the background since the very beginning, waiting for the right moment to be understood. This isn't the ending of the message. It's the moment where everything you've heard begins to connect in a completely different way. Close your eyes for a second and imagine tomorrow morning. The sun rises exactly as it always has. The streets awaken. People continue their routines. Nothing appears extraordinary on the surface. Yet inside you, something is no longer the same. That is how real transformation often begins. Not with fireworks. Not with dramatic announcements. With a single shift in perspective that quietly changes every decision that follows. Now return to the words that brought you here. Please read this before you fall asleep. I can't lose you twice. Perhaps the deepest meaning was never about asking someone to stay. Perhaps it was about refusing to let fear make another decision. Think about how often uncertainty writes stories that never actually happen. The mind fills empty spaces with imagined endings, while the heart waits patiently for truth to arrive. Tonight invites you to stop letting assumptions speak louder than reality. There is a remarkable difference between waiting with fear and waiting with trust. Fear counts every passing hour. Trust notices every lesson hidden within it. Fear asks, what if everything falls apart? Trust quietly whispers, what if everything is coming together in ways I cannot yet see? Which voice deserves your attention? Only you can answer that. Maybe somewhere beyond this moment, another person has also reached the same crossroads. They have stopped searching for perfect timing and started valuing genuine understanding. They have realized that meaningful connections are not sustained by endless words but by consistent sincerity. That realization cannot be rushed. It arrives only after experience has softened old expectations. And perhaps that is why you were guided to this story tonight. Not to predict tomorrow, but to prepare your heart to meet it with greater wisdom. Notice how different this feels from the beginning. The mystery has become clarity. The uncertainty has become curiosity. The waiting has become quiet confidence. That is not an accident. It is growth. As you move into the next chapter of your own journey, carry one simple reminder with you. Never underestimate the power of one honest moment. One thoughtful conversation. One decision to listen before assuming. One choice to remain open when closing the door would have been easier. Sometimes those small moments become the turning points we only recognize much later. So as this night gently comes to an end, leave space for tomorrow to surprise you. Leave room for conversations you cannot yet imagine, opportunities you cannot yet predict, and understandings that arrive only when the time is truly right. The story isn't asking you to chase certainty. It is inviting you to walk forward with hope, patience, and an open heart. And perhaps that is the greatest message hidden inside those unforgettable words. I can't lose you twice. Because what is truly meant to grow is never strengthened by fear. It is strengthened by awareness, courage, and the quiet decision to keep believing that every meaningful chapter begins long before anyone realizes the story has already changed. One final curtain is about to lift. But not in the way you expect. Most people spend their lives waiting for a single extraordinary event to change everything. Yet the greatest moments rarely arrive with loud announcements. They arrive disguised as ordinary choices. And tonight, one of those choices is quietly standing in front of you. Imagine receiving one last page from the letter you've been reading all along. There are no grand declarations left. Only one sentence, written with complete peace. If our paths were always meant to cross again, I want us to meet as the people we were becoming, not the people we used to be. Read those words slowly. Because they reveal the true heart of this entire journey. The message was never asking you to remain trapped in old memories. It was asking you to protect something far more valuable. Your ability to believe in new beginnings. Every experience you've carried has shaped you. Every unanswered question has sharpened your awareness. Every unexpected delay has quietly taught patience that could never have been learned any other way. And now you stand somewhere completely different from where this story began. Notice it. At the beginning, you were searching for answers. Now, you are beginning to understand the questions themselves. That changes everything. Life has